Okay, welcome to my new Python tutorial. In the previous video, I explained how you can create single variables. So you store a single value of different types like integers, strings, floats, and so on in a variable. And now I will explain how you can declare variables that contain multiple items, not only a single one. And these variables are called lists. And if you know maybe C++ or other programming languages, then you will see that lists are very similar to arrays. But they are more powerful and they have more advantages. So I think also you will use them quite frequently when you work with Python. So I think it's now the best time to introduce these lists and then continue with other topics like if conditions, for loops, and so on. So in this video now we will cover lists. And in order to explain what you can do with that, we will just create one. And then we will play around with that as usual. So in this case, we create a list which we call just L maybe. And now we don't have to only type in a number, for example, if we want to create a list of integers. This would be just a simple variable, which contains the value 5, but now we have to use rectangular brackets. So for example, we could write now here 5, and then we have to use comma separation in order to insert the next item into our list. And in this case, maybe a 3, a 1, and maybe a 4, a 2, 8, 7. And then one of the advantages of lists is that one item could appear multiple times. So we have here 5, and for example, and so we can insert another 5 without any problem. There are other objects in Python where this is not possible, where a single item could only occur a single time, but these things we will discuss maybe in one of the later videos. So now in this case, we can insert another item just for fun. So now our list, let's suppose, is complete. And then the easiest thing which we can do with a list is the same what we do usually with variables. And this is printing this list. So now we can write print L. And you can see now as the output, we have now all our items that we inserted into our list in the same order and also inside rectangular brackets. So the output of this print command is just the list itself. This you have to keep in mind when you work with lists. If you are not sure whether you have a single variable or whether you have a list with multiple items, you can again use the type command that we have already learned about. So when you write print type of L and you give out or you run the program, then it gives out that here the class is list. So it's not an integer or anything else. It's really a separate class. And you have no idea about what content it has, because a list can also contain not only integers, strings, and so on. It can also contain a mixture of different types. This is also important. So I could add now some strings here without any problem. And this is different to other programming languages like C++, for example. When you have an array of integers, you cannot insert any other type there. So now we know that this is a list. But what we want to know maybe about this list is how long it is, how many items it contains. This is a very important information. So if we use now this function len for length, then and you run the program, then it gives you out the number of items. So in this case 9. And we can just count to prove that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if I remove, for example, the last item, which is the 6, and I run the program again, then you see now it's only 8. So this function len by itself is not doing anything else except counting the items in your list and gives this out as an integer. Okay, now we know how many items are included in our list, but we want to address maybe a single item. We don't want to address the full list, but we want to know what is, for example, the 5th item of our list. So we could either directly put this into our print command, or we define maybe a new variable which we call a, and then we write here L in rectangular brackets again, and then, for example, 5. So this means that the fifth element of our list will be stored in the variable a. And if we print out now this variable a, then you see that here 8 appears, because the fifth element in this case is an 8. And the reason for that is the reason why it is like this is because we have to go from here to here, from the beginning to the end, and count then 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be a 2, but you have to keep in mind that in Python, similar to other programming languages, you are not starting from 1 to count, but you are starting from 0. So the 0th element in this case is a 5. The first one is 3. The second one is 1. So we have to count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the fifth one is actually an 8. So this is correct. If we type in 4 instead of 5 and we run the program, you will see the output is 2. This is then the fourth element, although you might think it is the fifth element, but it's in principle the fourth one. Similarly, you can also, and this is really outstanding in Python. In other programming languages, it's not working like that. So we can go from the back to front and find out what is, for example, the second last element of our list. And for that purpose, we could write, for example, -2. And when we run the program, then we see the output is 7, because -1 in this case would be 5 and -2 would be 7. So we go from back to front and take out the second last element, and the third last element would be then again here this number 8. So also this works quite well. We can also create sublists. So we take some parts of that list and store this into another list, or reference this in another list actually. So let's suppose we create a second list which we call L2, and we write here 2 5. This means that now we take the second element to the fifth element of our list L and reference this to our list L2. And if we write now here print L2 and run the program, you will find out that now the first element of our new list is 1, because this is the second element. Then 4, this is the third element. And 4, this is the fourth element. This is number 2. This you can see here. And you have to keep in mind that the larger number which you put here is not included. So now 4, the number 5 which we put here is not part of the new list that we create. It stops actually at 4. So if we type in a 4 here and we give out the list, then we see now that it only these two values 1 and 4 are implemented. We can also omit the first one. So if you write here only $4, then you will see that now it starts from the beginning of our list and contains everything until 4. So 5, 3, 1, 4. This is also a very powerful way how to write that. It's a short form and also easy to understand if you give this code to someone else to immediately identify from where to where you want to reference that list, for example. And as I said before, a list does not necessarily only contain integers. You can also have other types, like for example strings. So maybe in this case we delete our whole code and we create a new list which we call maybe vehicles. And then this list should contain now strings. So let's suppose we create one entry called bus. I will use now again single quotation. Or we use another one car, and another one maybe truck, and the last one maybe airplane. I'm not sure whether airplane is a vehicle, but at least it fulfills our purpose for the time being. So now we can again print this list, and I think you know already what to expect. And this is basically just the list itself in the same order how we typed it in. Okay, this is in principle very simple. And now I want to explain how you can manipulate lists. So this you can also do with integers, of course, but I want to show this now especially here with strings, because it's, I think, easier to explain. So let's suppose we want to change the the first entry, yeah, which is the in this case car, which is the second entry, but as I said, you have to count from 0 to infinity, so the first one would be in this case car. So we can write here vehicles, and then we have to again use this rectangular brackets, and we type in 1. So now we reference the first item in our list, the first element, car, and we overwrite this with another string. Yeah, so for example, in this case, bike. And now when we run the program, you will see now car has vanished and it has been replaced with bike. So it's very simple. In the same way how you reference to an item to print it out, we can also now, or to store it in another variable, we can also use that in order to overwrite a specific item. It's also very easy to insert some new item into the list. So we could, for example, write here vehicles.insert, and then we have to tell Python, of course, in which position it should be inserted. Yeah, so we don't want to overwrite something. We really want to add maybe another vehicle, which could be a boat, somewhere here. So let's suppose we write here 1 and then boat, and we run the program. Then you will see our new list contains bus, boat, because here on the first position, yeah, we inserted now boat, then bike comes, which was car before, and then truck appears, and then airplane. So now we replaced one item in our list with another one, and we additionally inserted another one, which we called in this case boat. Yeah? So I think this is quite easy to understand. In any case, I always recommend that whenever I explain something and you try it yourself, you also should play a little bit with this and try to change some values and get a feeling how things are shifting and changing by changing, for example, an item that you reference, some values, some position which you reference, and so on. And we can also append items to our list. So let's suppose we write here vehicles.append, and then we use another vehicle, let's suppose a helicopter. Yeah? And now we run the program. Then you see that now we have our 4 entries. In addition, this boat, which has been inserted here. Then car has been replaced by bike again. Yeah? And additionally, we now appended another item, which is helicopter, to our list. And now our list looks like that. So also that is actually not so difficult. Another powerful thing which you can do with lists is to add list to lists. Yeah? So let's suppose we have another list here, yeah, which we call maybe buildings. Yeah? And there we create some other items which are strings. For example, one building could be a school, one building could be a house, one building could be a market, supermarket, for example. And then we write here vehicles, and then the function which you have to use is extend, yeah, not append. Append is only for a single item, but if we really want to add a list to another list, we can use extend, and then buildings. Yeah? And when you run then the program, you see now we have all our items from the vehicles list and just all the others which are appended to that or extended. Yeah? So this is also quite easy and a powerful mechanism. So whenever you have, later we will also talk about loops. Yeah? So in a loop you can easily append something to your list. It will be stored in memory actually, and then later you can access each item in that list outside of the loop, for example. And now we talked a lot about how to insert things into lists, and we can use different commands for that. We can overwrite items already. But of course, another important thing is that you can also remove things from your list. I think otherwise it would be also useless. Yeah? So now we have our new list, vehicles, and we, let's suppose, want to remove the bike. So the new thing which we have inserted here to replace car. So let's suppose we just want to remove that. So here with the command or with the function remove, you insert directly the name of the item, or the item itself. So if it is an integer, you have to insert the integer, or if it is actually a string, then you have to insert here the string. And if you run the program now, you see the lists look exactly the same as before, but the bike item has been removed. So also that is quite simple. And another way to remove an item from your list is by referencing the position where it appears. Yeah, so let's suppose we want to remove the 5th element of our list. Yeah, so we can write here vehicles dot, and then the command here is pop, and let's suppose 5, as I said. Yeah, and we run the program. Now you see, again, the lists look similar to the one before, but the 5th item, which in this case school, this has been removed. Now this is not anymore part of that list. Yeah, and then again, you can add more things to your list, remove it, and also, as I said, play a little bit around with that to get a feeling what these different commands are actually doing until you are fully familiar with. And similar to that, you can also use another function, and this is called clear. Yeah, this is very easy to understand because when you use this function here and you run the program, you see the list is now empty. So this function clear, destroys the whole list. It removes everything from the memory, and you get an empty list at the end. Sometimes it can be useful, but for the time being, of course, we want to keep our list, so we will let it as it is. And another powerful thing which you can do with lists in Python is to use a sorting algorithm, which is already implemented there. So for example, if I write here now vehicles.sort after removing the clear command, of course, and then we run that, you see now Python automatically sorts the list according to the first letter of the alphabet, airplane, boat, and so on. So this is quite good. It works with every type of list. So it works with integers, with floats. So in some cases, like Booleans, it would be, I think, useless. But in this case, you can now easily see it works. You can even change the order of the sorting. So you can insert another parameter here, which is called reverse. And you can set this equal to true. And when you now run the program, then you see now we have a reversed order, and we start with the highest letter, and we stop with the lowest one, which is in this case A. So in this case, it also works quite simple, and you have a very powerful tool with which you can actually sort lists if it is necessary. Maybe another thing which I can also explain now is how to create lists of lists. So you can also insert lists into other lists. And for that, we use, again, this append command. But I mean, when we use extend, we can add one list to another one. But if we use append and then insert this list here, the second list, then it will be appended to the previous list. And this I will explain now. So first we want to delete a few things here, which we have done before. And now we have only these two lists, vehicles and buildings. And now we can write vehicles dot append buildings. And when we run this program here now, then you see that we have one list containing our vehicles, and then the last element is the list of buildings that we inserted here. So when we want to address a single element here, for example, we want to address this list here, we could write now print vehicles 5 and run this. I think it should be 4. And then you see that now the fourth element, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the list which we created here, the building list. And if we want to address a single item of this list, then we have to use double indices. So in this case, for example, 1. And if we run this, then you see we have house as a single item. So you can easily insert nested lists by inserting lists into list into list and so on. I don't know what the memory will tell you at the end, but then you have to use double, triple, and so on indices in order to address separate things. So you can 2-dimensional lists, 3-dimensional lists, and so on. Create it very easily. And the last thing which I want to explain is about copying lists. So let's suppose we delete everything and we only keep our vehicles list. And now we create a new list, which we call maybe vehicles 2. And this should be equal to our previously created list vehicles. of course, we can print out vehicles 2. Now, this should work without any problem. Now we have again the same list that we have created before. And now we will overwrite again one item. Let's suppose again, item number 1 we will replace with bike. And yeah, then you see that now also, sorry, this should not be here. This we want to do actually below this. Yeah. So first we have the list vehicles. This we hand over to the list vehicles 2. And then we change something in the original list vehicles. And when you do that, you see bike has also been changed in the list vehicles 2, although we don't address that here. And the reason is that in contrast to variables, what I explained last time, lists are not copied. When you do such a thing here, lists are only referenced. So the list itself is still in memory, and we only make a reference to that part in the memory. And if we change something here in the original list, then it will also be changed in the new list. So in order to avoid that and to really create a real copy of that list, we have to type in here vehicles.copy. This function really makes a copy of the memory and creates a new variable, vehicles2, which is a copy of that. And when we now print that, you will see now it has not been changed. We changed the value in the first list, but we don't do it in the second list. This is a complete separate independent list from that. And I think this is everything which you have to know about lists. If you remember all these commands and you, as I said, play a little bit around with that to understand it a little bit deeper, then you have everything which you need to know in order to work with that. And in the next video, then I will go into details regarding if conditions, and then we will also discuss loops. And then in combination with loops, you can also do many things with arrays, and there I will then reference to that in the near future. But hopefully this video was quite helpful already. You learned something new, and if you like the video, as usual, please hit the like button. Please subscribe my channel if you have not done so far, and hopefully see you soon for the next video.